Hi, welcome back to episode 2 of my new series of what makes the best applesauce. So, I had cut up actually three pairs to add into my 6 apples of store-bought apples. So, this is what that looks like. The apples are definitely a little more overcooked than I want them to be, but that's okay. It's just going to be a little bit more flavorful, and then the chunks will be pears instead of apples. It'll all work out in the end because I'm trying to make, well, not just applesauce, but an apple pear sauce combination. So I kind of wanted to make it a little bit fair for each applesauce. So by the end of my series, I'll have 3 or 4 different types of applesauce and pear sauce mixtures. I just wanted to try out this ratio to see if I could get away with not adding any sugar. But with the varying sweetness and tartnesses of the apples that I tasted from the store, that I tasted in my first video, we're just going to try adding pears instead of sugar, and I'll have to taste test it after I use the inversion blender. So now, you guys saw me what I had to do to peel, cut, and core my apples, and I put it in the lemon juice water mixture, the slices, after I got them all cut up, and then my step was to cook them until they're semi-tender, but they're a little overcooked. They're translucent, the apples are, so it's all a matter of preference, really, with texture. People are texture sensitive. Me, not so much. But I really do love having extra chunks, so that's why I'm glad that my pears aren't quite cooked down as much, so that will give me a little bit more texture in my applesauce. So I'm going to grab that. So once I cook down the apple and pear, I drain it into the strainer, into a thing in the sink, trying to make sure I don't spill much of the juice. Use it for my next batch. I gotta be careful not to spill too much out of it because I gotta have enough for the next batch of apples to cook. I'm gonna actually just go ahead and do this whole process of just this batch of store-bought apples, and that way I can compare the store-bought apples compared to the apples that I get for free from my friends. So I'll have a couple comparisons. The ones that I don't have any left over of is the first batch was the Cosmic Crisp with the pear mixture, but so far that flavor is winning out, but I can't jump ahead. I gotta see where these stuff lay. I'm gonna do the canned goods taste test. I gotta get my spoon. I'll be right back. Alright, so right now I'm taking my spoon, I'm kind of stirring the apples and pears in the strainer to try and get as much juice out as possible, while still leaving some juice in for flavor, because I do want some of that citric acid to help preserve it for a little bit longer if I can, from the lemon juice. Alright, this is about what it looks like now, and because I kind of overcooked the apples, it's already starting to look like applesauce. So, like I said, I was just trying to, like, there's a little bit of juice down here in the bottom. I'm trying to, like, open up the holes to try and get the watery juice to get through the holes. And that's the purpose of trying to stir this up in here, to try and get more of the juice out so I can use it to heat up my next batch of apples. So, back into the pot. That's about as much juice as I can get out. I'm pretty sure that I need to add some sugar to this, though. And I only like to add like half a cup of sugar at a time, because I really don't want to make it too sugary. I myself like to have my applesauce a little bit more on the tart side than the sweet, because diabetes does run in my family, so I am trying to cut back where I can. And this, I think, will only make the 1 quart and 1 pint that I have set aside to can. And whatever's left over is what I'm going to eat today. It'll be a snack for rewarding me for getting some stuff canned, because this takes a while. Alright, let me go grab that. And just to show you guys, this is the lemon water juice that I started out with. I didn't have any preset quantity. I just wanted to try and make sure that my apples were covered so they weren't exposed to the air, so they didn't turn too brown in this process. And this applesauce looks fantastic. It's like really bright yellow in color. So yeah, I'm gonna go put this down. I just set that aside while I go ahead and finish the rest of this process. Here's my Cuisinart inversion blender. And I'm going to put this right here in the pot. I'm going to try and get some of those bigger pear chunks of it down. And then it's going to be taste test time. Right before I can it. And I already got the water pre-boiled for the applesauce. Come on, big chunks. These look pretty nice and creamy. There's still a couple big chunks still. Couple big chunks still. Just because I got a little bit more water than I usually have, but that's okay. I'm trying to get this done because I'm getting messages. It's time to game some zombies. Sauce. That's what it looks like. And I already have my jars in the canner warming up, so less likely chance of it busting. I actually had a jar bust last night. You kind of want to have, when it comes to canning, you kind of want to have the jar and the stuff on the inside of the jar the same temperature, so when you go to drop it into the boiling water, it's not like super cold and higher chance of weakening the glass and busting. But at least when they bust, they don't shatter. So I really appreciate that. One second, guys. Alright, I went ahead and set my lemon juice water aside. I grabbed my jars out of the pot that's boiling. I grabbed my jar grabber holder thingy. I got this to grab the lids out of the pot. So what I like to do to try and warm up the glue is to throw lids inside a pot of hot water. I had it boiling, and now I just have it on low or whatever, low. As long as it's warm, that's what matters. So what I have to prepare is I have this to put on the jar. So I have that. I have my ladle. So I take just ladles full of applesauce and put it in the jar, and then put it in there, and then process for 20 minutes, and then pull them out, and boom, that's some canned applesauce. But before I do that, I forgot I need to do taste test. I gotta make sure it tastes right before I process it. So I got 3 different spoons out, so I hopefully don't need more than 3. So I'm gonna try it without adding any extra sugar, just 3 pears to 6 apples from the store. I'll really find out how much 6 apples and 3 pears make, and I only got 1 quart-sized jar out and a pint-sized jar out. So I don't know if I'm going to need another jar or not. Maybe, we'll see. Taste test. That's pretty good. Need some sugar though. So there's spoon number 1. And that's the wrong size cup. That's okay. I'll grab this 1 cup size. Make sure it's dried out. Got my little bit of sugar here. Really, I didn't even have a half a cup of sugar, so let me turn this heat on the applesauce a little bit to help the applesauce seep in. So we got this little bit of sugar. So I did a half a cup of sugar, not even half a cup of sugar. This ladle will not work very well to stir it. Let me get my wood spoon back. Stir this half a cup of sugar in this little bit of apple and pears. I should probably use an inversion blender one more time on this, honestly, to help stir it in more efficiently, maybe. I do like to have the apple and pear simmer a little bit together to help absorb the flavor of each other. I just didn't do it for very long today. I'm kind of pressed for time. I got I've had a lot of things to do before my parents get home today. Alright, taste test number 2. With a half a cup of sugar added to 6 apples and 3 pears. I really don't think I'll need any more than this, honestly. Still a little granularly, but that should go away as I cook it while it processes for 20 minutes. Kind of wash my hand again. I could probably use a little bit more sugar, so just a tad, but I have to get that from the pantry. I'll be right back. And so I just added just a teeny bit more sugar, not even a quarter of a cup. And I'm going to use the inversion blender again. I try to clean as I go, so that's what I'm doing, like also when I'm pausing it, so I can get some cleaning done, because I want to go straight to playing zombies as soon as these goes in the canner. Alright, I used the inversion blender. This is what it looks like now. A little bit more smooth, a little bit. Now I'm ready to ladle it in. Wherever I put that. Alright, ladling it into the jar. Move the camera over here. And you always want to leave at least like a 2 to 2.5. And this is perfect for it because it tells you how much. It always tells me in my canning book how far to leave it down. I just do a standard, like I do it below all the ring area. You don't want to have too much or too less. But I haven't really gone wrong with going with that standard, just below the lid level. Well, I hope I can fill a whole quart jar with this. I'm just doing a lot bigger batches. This is like the smallest batch I've done all year of applesauce. I like to do them in the pints, but I wouldn't use my pretty pink jar, which Ball had put out different colors of jars each year. They're just so much more expensive than the regular. It looks like I'm only going to get 1 quart. So 6 apples and 3 pears make 1 quart of applesauce. There's no way I could fit enough of this into a pint. So it looks like I'm processing 1 quart of applesauce from the store. Alright, well, better than nothing, I suppose. I probably should have done pints, honestly, but... So that's where that stands. And then I grab the lid. Oh. Make sure that there's nothing on the lid area itself. I like to take a wet rag and wipe this off so it doesn't prevent the glue from sticking and creating any kind of like bad, nasty bacteria that's inside your jar while you're canning it. So it can also really stop the seal from really sealing tight, having something very minuscule on the very top. And then you just take your ring, tight it tight but not really super tight. So you shove that in. It's not quite boiling. I had to add a little bit more water because I let the water boil out a little bit too much. But this is what I have left over from my quart. Very little. And it's not going to fill this pint jar. I have to have at least 2.5 ladlefuls to get a pint jar full, and I just don't quite have enough. So that's what I'm eating for a snack this afternoon. It's like 2 o'clock, so I'm trying to clean up a little bit here. You can take this other extra lid out. I can turn this off. Throw this lid over here, use it next time. Throw this water out. And here's my clean spoon, so I'll get a spoon bowl. Throw this in the sink. Because I know that if I went on vacation down there with my parents, I wouldn't want to come home to a messy kitchen either and have to deal with that. So thankfully I took food out for dinner. I got burgers and some chicken tenders because my mom can't quite eat red meat very much. Just some diet restrictions for my mom. I can't even get a whole ladle full. I should use a smaller bowl too. There's smaller bowls in this. But that stuff isn't too bad. This is definitely reminds me of the flavor of what store-bought applesauce tastes like. So that's my. But that's almost ready to go in. So once it starts boiling, I'm going to drop that jar into the counter, put the timer on, and then once the timer goes off, pull the jar out, and it stays good for 1 to 2 years, I believe. I have to check my book. I'm not quite sure. The fruits of my labor. So good. But it still tastes better than any store-bought. Even though it's store-bought apples. Alright, boil. Set it on down into the pot. And it definitely does not have enough water. I was afraid of that. Okay, and the very last thing I want to mention is when it comes to canning anything, you want to make sure that the jar is covered in water at least like this much. So I'll show you what that looks like. But it's not boiling yet because I had to add a lot of water. So I'm going to lower it down and show you all what it looks like when it is ready to process. This is what it should look like under the water. Yet, so I have to wait until it's boiling and then process for 20 minutes, take out, and then it should be sealed. And sometimes it can take a little bit for a lid to seal. It just depends on the temperature in the room and all that such. But I love the popping sound of when you're done canning and you pull it out of the counter and you hear a pop, pop. It's not really loud like that. It's more like, I don't know if I can replicate it, like that. That's what it sounds like when it seals. It's like music to the ears. You're like, ah, it's sealed. But when it doesn't seal, that's when you have to consume it within a couple of days because it will not preserve. So if you don't hear that pop on the lid and you don't see it indented down, that means it didn't seal. So you're going to have to eat it. So as long as I do my 20 minutes under boiling hot water, it should be good to go. So I'll make one last video after I pull it out and show you all what I mean. Potentially not. I got a game to start with my friend. But I at least wanted to try this new series out. So stay tuned for the next one when I do end up doing more apples that are not store-bought and pears. I'll make another episode for this. Bye guys.